global personal development industry is worth over $54 billion in 2025 and is projected to reach about $90 billion by 2034. Think about that for a second. An industry built around optimizing your life and building a better version of yourself is growing at an incredible pace, just like this channel. Subscribe now. Yet, somehow, we feel more behind than ever, overwhelmed, burnt out, guilty just for resting. We've been sold the idea that if we just find the right app, the right morning routine, the right planner, everything will finally be okay. But what if the problem isn't that you're not productive enough? What if the problem is the industry just has convinced you that every moment of your life needs to be optimized, measured, and monetized? All right. So, do you need to optimize your life? And I'm going to tell you why. I don't think you do. And you might be wasting a bunch of time, money, and potentially ruining your life by doing this. So, these are companies. They want your money. Now, is it worth it? And I think it's great. If there's products that provide value to people, get them. That's wonderful. I am big capitalist. I encourage all of that. Wonderful. Do all that stuff. My issue then is, well, is this really worth the bang for its buck? And I would argue there are some issues with this that we're having. So, number one, and most importantly, what is your problem? Why are you seeking these things out? Often want a general improvement. We feel depressed, we're anxious, we have issues within our relationships in our life. And our brain goes, oh, let me think of some solutions to this. So very often, these are often the health apps, and we have an idea in our head that, hey, if I alter my body, if I fix something about me, my interactions will be different. So maybe you're having a hard time finding a partner. Well, if I transform my body and I get in shape, well, I can go get that partner. What if that's not the problem? What if the problem actually isn't your physique and it has something to do with your personality, your ability to engage in relationships, to give and take, your communication style? I don't know. There could be about 1,000 different reasons that it's hard for you to find a partner, to engage in a long-term relationship. And physique, could that be part of it? Sure. I'm as much as I can make fun of the looks maxers, they have a point. It is useful to look good. People perceive you in a positive manner when you do that. That's great. But is that actually the problem that you are trying to solve? Now, often our problems come to us in this kind of visceral sensation of feeling and thought and all this stuff, and it's confusing. And so these apps are selling to you that they have the answer. They know, hey, if you fix your sleep, you're going to feel better in all of these different ways. And of course, you want a solution. You've been suffering. Like, it makes sense, and you should want to improve these things. But the number one thing I would ask is, what is your problem? My experience is that people come off into my office and they think they know what's going on and say, hey, I often ask, hey, what brings you into my office? And their answer will be something that's, pretty reasonable. It's like, okay, that's fair enough. But my experience is that often in talking with someone, almost always does that answer change. It not only, sometimes it's just not correct. It's like, it's not this actually. It was something over here that was uncomfortable to look at. And we were choosing the easy thing to look at. Okay, that happens sometimes. Or sometimes it is that thing and it kind of, but we have to expand it and get into more detail and nuance to understand like really what we're tackling here and not just the general idea of something. So that's something people spend sometimes years trying to figure out what actually is the problem in their life. And I actually have a belief that once you actually know what the problem is in your life, solutions are actually pretty simple. This first question is some of the hardest part of your life, is to figure out what is the actual thing that is causing me to suffer. Why am I not achieving my goals? Is a non-trivial answer. We want to make it trivial because that would be easy. Then we get to the doing part, which feels good. This part often doesn't feel great, is asking ourselves, like, what's actually wrong? And maybe taking an uncomfortable look at parts of our lives that we don't really want to look at. So first, ask that question. Make sure that we are solving the problem that we actually want to solve. My second issue here, are you doing your fundamentals? Are you doing the basic things that are necessary to achieve your goal before you start optimizing? I think you should spend probably a year doing something without worrying about optimization at the very beginning. You have to learn how you interact with things. And if we use the example of weightlifting, something that I really enjoy, you don't need a app and a coach and a nutrition plan when you are beginning. You need to go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week consistently for a period of time. You need to figure out what is, that first question I asked, well, first of all, why am I going to the gym? So answer that question. But then once you answer that, just go. Most people struggle because they don't go to the gym. They try to optimize and go really, really hard before they build in the routine and the discipline to doing this, and they burn out. You see it all the time. If you're ever a regular gym goer and you talk to other people trying to get into going, often they're going to give you the most intense plans. And you're like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, it's fine. Like it'll work. It sounds really intense. And I don't know if you can stick with that. I don't know if I could stick with that sometimes. And I'm like, I like going to the gym and I've built this in my routine. That sounds insane. So much of what we're doing is putting in the effort and showing up. I will say this repeatedly in all of my videos. Just do things. You don't have to necessarily even do them well. Showing up is so much of the battle. And this optimization culture doesn't tell you that. It says, no, optimizing it is what is important, doing it the best you can. And I would say, I think you can get about 90% of the way there without a single app, a single coach, and any of this. If you go, pay attention, listen to your body, you can learn a lot. And there are a lot of just basics that are out there free for everyone. So before I did this video, I went on to Whoop's website and tried to figure out, I was like, why do I want to know, let's say, my sleep score? What would be the utility of this? Like, okay, I get a bad sleep score. What do I do now? Well, they listed a bunch of tips there. I was like, oh, cool. Like, what are their 5 tips? It was the most basic bitch tips in the world. It's like set a routine time to go to bed and when to wake up. Don't drink caffeinated drinks at the end of the day. Don't look at screens before you go to bed. Regardless of my score on my Whoop app, I could do those things. If I want to make my sleep better, there are very predictable things that have been studied for a long time that can effectively help you get into better sleep, a better routine with sleep. I may argue that the app actually increases your anxiety. Think about sleep. Has anyone ever had this experience? I think everyone has. Is that you wake up, it's 3 in the morning. You have to wake up at 7 o'clock to go to work. You realize that you look at the clock, sadly, at 3 o'clock when you wake up, and you're like, oh no, I only have 4 more hours to go to sleep. I have an important meeting today. I gotta make sure I go to sleep. And then you can't sleep because you're worried about trying to go to sleep. And sleep's that annoying thing that if you're trying to go to sleep, you usually can't go to sleep. And now let's add a number on top of there. And they do this cool thing where they use colors because they've brilliantly taken some of our best psychologists. I say best kind of jokingly, because they're probably some of the most effective techniques in behavioralism, but they can be used for horrible purposes. And you see this. So some of this is colors mean things to us. So, if you have a green score, you did good. If you did a orange score, I don't know, it's not great, but if you did a red score, that's definitely bad. So if you got a red score the night before on your sleep, I mean, we can kind of predict what's going to happen is, shit, I need a green score tonight. I'm going to feel really bad the next day. But is that helping you actually sleep? I'm kind of concerned that it's not. And the amount of time, thought, effort that you're putting into optimizing this number is you're not putting into those basic fundamentals. You're not paying attention to those things. It is a way to avoid, again, the hard work. Because those fundamentals that I brought up about the sleep, going to bed at the same time every night and waking up at the same time, that's not easy. There's times you're going to want to stay up late. You want to party. You have a video you want to watch. You don't feel tired, blah, 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 blah. There's 1,000 reasons you want to do this, but it'd be a lot easier to look at my Whoop app, like, oh, I can do this thing. I can do my Whoop app and do all these little things. And that feels better. It feels actionable. It's not the grind. It's not going to the gym. It's I get a little number and a score and it tells me I did a good job. Maybe I get a little award and a badge. So they've built in all of this positive reinforcement, which is just an idea that if you give someone something, they're more likely to do the thing again. So these apps are going to give you green numbers. They're going to give you all kinds of rewards. Streaks are another thing. We know these tools are built in to get you to continue to engage in the product because that's how they make money. They're going to give you more and more of that to continue to get you to continue to engage in it. We've known this since World of Warcraft when they introduced Daily Quest. That was to get you to play the game every day because we've learned that if you give someone something, they're more likely to do it. And so they want to give you things all the time to keep reeling you in there. Is that helping you? That's the question. So I want everyone to look at this and not say, I want the takeaway from this to be not the productivity apps are bad. They're not useful. But make sure that you're not using it as a way of avoiding the difficult fundamentals of your life. The things that we know that we should be doing. It's eating generally healthy, getting in general movement of your body, getting decent sleep. These things can be really helpful, and our goal should be every day doing a little bit better for ourselves and then learning what didn't work. And so the hard part is sometimes we have to do this ourselves. We have to look at ourselves and figure out what we had done that didn't work for us and then do a little bit better the next day. And I think psychologically that's a bit more difficult. We have to look at our flaws, look at our weaknesses, and ask ourselves, I made a decision last night that didn't help me today, and now I'm living with that. And it's easier to just look at your Whoop app and give, well, I had a bad sleep number, and that's what was going on in my life. But it doesn't help us actually change, get better, and feel better. And so that's what I want. I want everyone to be feeling better, to actually be doing better. And if you could spend the amount of time and money sometimes that you're spending on these apps to just do the very basics, you'd be amazed at how quickly life can change, but it just takes consistently and it's hard work. And so I understand the desire to find the panacea, that little puzzle piece you click in there and all the light shoots behind and everything just comes together. It doesn't tend to work that way. In my experience working with people for over 15 years, it's people make slow, small, and sometimes unnoticeable incremental steps towards their goals. And that's what you see. You don't see these light bulb moments where everything comes together and works. You see people that have decided enough is enough and I want to change and I'm willing to put in the effort and the work to go do those things. And I'm tired of looking for shortcuts. So I encourage everyone to, ask yourself these questions and ask yourself the hard questions, because if you actually want to improve, it's going to take work. It's going to take challenge of, honesty, of looking at yourself. And I encourage everyone to do it because you can. Everyone can be a little bit better than they were the day before. Before you go, if you enjoyed this deep dive into productivity culture, I think you'll really like this next one. In this video, I react to Avatar: The Last Airbender from a therapist's perspective, breaking down all of the psychology behind Aang, trauma, grief, and why the show's emotional storytelling resonated with an entire generation. If you want to understand the psychology behind one of the greatest animated series ever made, click right here, and I will see you there.